Hello and good evening and welcome to our palatial studios here at the CMN TV studios in Troy, Michigan. I'm your host, Jonathan Roldan, and tonight we have a very, very special guest for you. He originally comes from the state of Missouri to our state of Michigan. He attended the College for Creative Studies in Detroit. He also has a master's in art education from Wayne State University and currently teaches. He's a comic book person. We're going to get into that in a little bit, but first I want to bring in my guest. His name is Erik Hodson.
Hi.
Welcome to the program.
Nice to be here.
And Erik is diagnosed with a disease called Scleroderma. And Erik, my first question for you is, can you explain the disease and how you got it?
Certainly. As far as how I got the disease, that's still pretty much a mystery. Scleroderma is an autoimmune disease, and it falls into the same category as lupus would, or some of the more well-known autoimmune diseases. Scleroderma is largely a mystery in the medical world as to how it happens. It's a very individualized autoimmune disease. There's a variety of potential side effects and other elements that come together and symptoms that could be in one person but not be in another. So for myself, for example, I have limited systemic scleroderma, which has caused a great deal of difficulty in my esophageal system, a lot of problems with acid reflux and digestion issues. Wow. Visibly, it's caused a lot of tightening in my muscle tissue and face, most visibly in the hands, where the tissue is so tightly wound that the joints are frozen. And also there's chronic pain in all of my joints, and I pretty much have to kind of live with a certain level of pain every day. Mine also has what's known as CREST syndrome, which stands for a number of different ailments that go along with scleroderma. And of those, I have the calcinosis, the esophageal dysfunction, which I mentioned earlier, and something called Raynaud's phenomenon. Raynaud's is very interesting and very curious. It's a disease that basically fools your body into thinking you're freezing to death whenever you get a slight chill. And so it'll draw all of the body heat out of your extremities to your center core to protect your life, essentially. But it could just be from opening the freezer door and getting some ice for a glass of water or something. And so with that, it would cause some tissue death in the extremities. And anyone who sees my hands closely on the tips of my fingers, there's some scarring from some previous skin ulcers that are caused by the illness.
Wow. Wow, and you seem like a pretty young guy. How old are you?
I'm 30 years old.
Wow, wow. And how long have you had this disease, and how have you adapted to it?
I originally was diagnosed with it in late 2003, early 2004 officially. Signs had started coming on the previous year, but I didn't have any medical insurance or any clue really what was going on. And symptoms, including the Raynaud's, actually started visibly showing their signs back in 1998 when I was still a student at the College for Creative Studies. I will never forget my elevator ride going with some of my friends back up to our room. I looked down and my hands were completely purple, like I had dipped them into some ink or some paint or something, and it freaked me out to no end. They felt fine, they were just purple. And with Raynaud's, that's one of the visible signs that Raynaud's is taking effect. Your hands can either be purple, meaning there's a loss of oxygen in your blood, or white, meaning there's a loss of blood flow. And I found that as that progressed on, the more I did, they would eventually turn white, and I would start to see those ulcers starting to appear.
Were your friends able to see the coloration?
Yeah, they saw all this mysterious stuff going on, and they were very, very bewildered. My best friend, Anthony, was the first one to ever mention that it might be something autoimmune, because he was one of those types of persons who would immediately get on the internet and start scouring and trying to investigate. He was just naturally inquisitive. As far as how I've adapted with it, it's just something that through the course of the years, you know, it essentially comes down to a question: do you want to give up and let what's happening to you happen and be a sponge and live off the government your whole life? Or do you want to try to live your life and still reach out and do your dreams? So The biggest challenge was after my hands had really solidified, was trying to go back to drawing. And I essentially took a whole year to retrain myself, use much more of my shoulder and my whole arm instead of my hands and wrist, and really retrained myself how to draw. So that was the biggest part as far as adapting to it.
Can you tell me how many people have the disease and what's being done about it in the world?
Well, sadly, scleroderma is the #3 killer in the United States among autoimmune diseases, and it's the lowest funded. But there is a lot of efforts out there in research. There's some great work being done by, I believe, Dr. Seibold out in Ann Arbor at U of M. He's a prominent authority on scleroderma and has done a lot of great research with it. And it's one of those things, it's just a complete mystery. Just recently, they released some facts where they were starting to believe that scleroderma was actually about 15 different separate disorders that for whatever reason decided to work together to try to destroy a person, which is why it's so individualized and there's different symptoms here and different symptoms in this person.
Now, you mentioned to me before we got the program started off camera that you wanted to speak about an organization, and you have some information here.
I really would like to talk to everybody out there about the Scleroderma Foundation.
Okay.
And here is their magazine, which this was published in June of 2007, which my beautiful wife Margaret, and myself were on the cover. And the Scleroderma Foundation, nationally known out of Boston, which is their world headquarters. The chapter here locally is in Farmington Hills, and they do a lot of outreach programs, a lot of awareness and fundraisers to get funds in the hands of researchers who are actually working with the disease, working with patients, and trying to develop an eventual cure for it. And they have a number of programs like walks, 50K runs, things like that. Coming up in the end of November, November 22nd, we have the Dinner, Dancing, and Diamonds benefit. It's a gala, so it's a real ritzy thing. A lot of well-known people from the Metro Detroit area show up at this. It's a beautiful ball. My wife and I have been privileged to be able to attend a couple of times, and it's just a wonderful thing. So if anybody would like more information on that, you can go to scleroderma.org, and you can follow the links to find the Michigan chapter and find more suitable information for that. I believe you asked earlier how I was involved with the organization. Yeah. I do a lot of pro bono graphic design work for them.
Wow.
And one example is I designed the logo for the Dinner, Dancing, and Diamonds Gala. I've done lots of logos, maps for their walks to hand out to people to show them where the various events are, flyers and brochures and things like that. They pretty much just call me up, say, hey, if you got some time, can you do this? We need some help with this. And I oblige every time, because it's my way of being able to give back to the work that they're doing.
You're such a multifaceted human being. Actually, we're going to be able to we're going to be privileged to see some of your work later on in the program. Can you, again, for the audience, just repeat that website again?
Scleroderma.org. That's the foundation's main website. And there are links for individual state chapters on that page. And you can get to the Michigan one right away and learn about all the things that are coming up, including the gala.
Okay, great.